Okay, hi everyone. I'm Joanne Flynn Black. I'm the founder of Launch Before. I'm a community strategist, and I encourage entrepreneurs to launch before everything feels perfect, launch before they
Mhm.
really feel completely ready, and to just get out in the world. So I'm really excited for today. Before we kind of jump into our amazing panelists, I just wanted to see if folks could write in the chat on where they're, dialing in from, where they're zooming in from. It would be great to see that. Um,
Yes.
and then also just to let you know about this session, we want to try to keep it as interactive as possible. So feel free to put a question in the chat, ask if you come on off mute. Just we want to not only hold the questions to the end, we want to try to make it interactive as much as we can. So really excited for our panelists who are here. So let me just introduce who we have, and I'll have them all tell a little bit about themselves and the organizations that they have communities for. So we first have Nicole Stiles, and she's the COO of How Women Lead. It's 14,000 top executive women helping redefine what it is to be a leader. So welcome, Nicole. And we also have Gwen Young, and Gwen is the COO of the Women's Business Collaborative. It's an alliance of 60 plus women businesses. So we're really excited to have you, Gwen. And Christina Bowie, she is the co-founder and managing partner of Kylan Ventures. And it's the premier venture uplifting Vietnamese talent entrepreneurs. So we're really excited to have everyone here. And let me see where folks are dialing in from. So we have Scottsdale, Arizona, Bridget, Nora from Calgary.
Cool.
Um, Eileen is in cloudy and humid Leedsburg, Virginia. Nicole is from LA. Stephanie is in Briarcliff, Texas, which is just outside Austin, and she's around the corner from Willie Nelson. I didn't know that.
Oh, how cool is
Stephanie,
that?
that's awesome. Shell. She's joining from a university campus in Newark, New Jersey. That's awesome. Welcome, Shell. And Christina's from San Francisco. Um, and let's see, Gwen is hot and human also in DC, and
Yes.
Karen from Long Island. So I'm really excited that everyone is here. So before we kicked off the questions, I want to also mention that we have a special guest today, which is Spencer Lucier. He's the founder and CEO of Networked. And so, Spencer, do you want to just spend a minute and just introduce yourself and say hi to everyone?
Sure. Joanne, thanks so much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And before we jump in, I'd like to say a little bit about the amazing women we have here today and their respective organizations. And Joanne, just as you said at the top, they all have big, profound missions. And while each of these missions are unique, there's a commonality, right? They have a desire to give back. They have a desire to make the world a better place, more inclusive. And to me, that's what communities are all about, right? Communities are full of opportunities. They're full of people who are willing to help. And that's really profound to us here at Networks because for us, we love and are honored, humbled, and privileged to support organizations like How Women Lead, like a Women Business Collaborative, like a Kylan Ventures. So this is the big takeaway. So nice to have everyone here today. Joanne, without further ado, I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Spencer. I wanted to start off by asking all the panelists who their community serves. They could tell us a little bit about them and their community, and a little bit about their mission. So I want to start with Gwen.
So thank you. And I'm thrilled to be here and I'm smiling because it's so nice to kind of have lunch with such a great dynamic group of people. So the Women Business Collaborative, we have sort of two communities, if you will, because we're built on two pillars. So we have 73 now of the leading organizations focused on women's leadership in business. So How Women Lead, How Women Invest, Catalyst, Community of 200, women corporate directors. And so we've got these 73 partner organizations, and that's one of our communities. And I can talk a little bit about kind of how we're using networks for them. And then we have our movement piece of the Women Business Collaborative, which is our 450 champions. And these are women and men like yourselves that are spread across what we call our Advisors and Leaders Council. So we've got these two communities. And then just real quickly, I don't want to sort of give the whole story because I want other people to answer. Our partner organizations line up against kind of these 9 program areas, what we call our 9 actions. Just this space is really for them to interact as partner organizations to find out what they're all doing. What are your targets? Where are you going? Where are your events? Who are you hiring? How can you collaborate? And the champions is as much that as it is to network, to find other, entrepreneurs and startups, or to find somebody who's hiring, or to just collaborate around. We've got a women's supplier diversity group that's up and coming. So our mission as the WBC is equal position, pay, and power. And we try to build collaboration against our 9 program areas. And so part of that is being able to house what everyone is doing and being able to show progress towards our 2025 and 2030 targets. So that's kind of the broad 30,000-foot view. We can talk more later, but that's kind of our 2 communities. So they've got similar and yet different ways that we're trying to interact.
That's great. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. How about Nicole? Can you talk a little bit about who you serve and a little bit about your mission?
Sure. So How Women Lead, we are a network of 14,000 women. We started locally in the Bay Area, but in the last 2 years during the pandemic, we've moved to a national model, and we now are building more regional areas. So we've launched a DC board. We're looking at Chicago and New York next. And we cover a lot of program areas that are really important to women that are in those top leadership positions. So we work a lot with corporate boards, investing, just the issues they face as often being the only woman in the room. And then we also have some give back pieces where we have our grant giving arm, and we also have an international fellowship, which is mostly social impact leaders, which represent 40 countries throughout the globe.
Wow, that's really impressive. Thank you, Nicole. How about you, Christina?
Hi, I'm Christina Bui, and I'm the co-founder and managing partner at Kylan Ventures. And really the community that I built is called the Vietnamese Leaders Forum, which is a network of like-minded Vietnamese in leadership roles spanning all industries, from profit, nonprofit, education, healthcare, government agencies. And I started Kylan to support and elevate Vietnamese entrepreneurs, but my community, Vietnamese Leaders Forum, which I've built, is feeding into that, because we have entrepreneurs, investors, venture capital, private equity, family offices, educators, healthcare professionals that have really succeeded in their respective disciplines, that want to give back and help elevate the next generation of Vietnamese leaders globally. So my community is really helping my venture studio as well.
Wow, that was
And Joanne, if I may, I'd like to just quickly say something. So thank you so much for the overview of the missions. And I want to just kind of bring it back to the fact that they're all so unique and profound, but there is that commonality, right? Between How Women Lead, between Women Business Collaborative, between Kylan Ventures and Vietnamese Leaders Forum, right? So it's an effort to really give back, to promote equality, to promote the advancement of gender parity, minority representation. So it's such a, it really is, there is that common thread between all the organizations that we have here today, and that really manifests itself throughout the network platform at large. A lot of the communities are really focused on this concept of giving back. So I think that's a really important call out. But all right, so Jared, back to you.
That's great. Thank you so much. So I wanted to start by, everyone here on the panel already had an organization, and then they added a community on. Sometimes within Networked, it's an organization that's starting just with the community, but that's a little bit different with this group. I wanted to talk about how you all grew. You all have impressive numbers and impressive clients, and wanted to talk about how you grew that. So maybe Gwen.
Yeah, so we're going into our 4th year as the WBC, and we actually rolled out Network last fall, if you will. So kind of a little bit of an in tandem. And we grew, kind of 2 ways. So our whole strategy for growth was somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody, right? So it's kind of, we started with, 19 organizations in 2019, and then they made introductions to other organizations. So we really kind of grew through that way in referrals. In our community of individuals, we grow by about 20 to 40 individuals every month, and that's by referrals. So Nicole or Christina may say, I'm here, but I want to bring in so-and-so. And our partner organizations are more just either somebody I know or our CEO. Our CEO is, to be honest, from a just process standpoint, has a LinkedIn of, over 11,000 contacts. She probably makes 28 individual calls a day. So our growth is really built on kind of this referral. This is also her 5th business that she's built, to your point, Joanne. So ours is really kind of word of mouth. Our advisory council has 20 co-chairs. They're all responsible for bringing in 5 new people a year. So it's really kind of numbers. It sounds very sales, but it's a lot of, of word of mouth. I knew Julie Castro Abrams from a previous job, but it was like, oh, well, let's give a call and see if there's some synergy there. So that's really, it really is still that kind of, personal referral piece, if you will, and less about kind of, lots of research online or anything like that, if that's what you're trying to get at. So it's really important that this community feels engaged, but we know how we're touching people. And we always, whoever brought us to the dance continues to participate in the dance as well. So we have often calls with 4 or 5 people on it, because we're all there together.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, word of mouth is so important, because if someone refers you, you trust that person. You're gonna maybe join easier than if it was just something you found. So I love that about your organization.
And Gwen, I'd also like to just kind of highlight what was really important to me in what you just said was you guys kind of got started with 19 in 2019, 19 organizations. And over time, day after day, week after week, look where you guys are, 3 years later, 4 years later. So this concept of organic growth, referrals, word of mouth, and time, right? I think that's one of the big takeaway. And Gwen, one of the things that's so unique with your organization is that, yes, it's individuals, but it's also an alliance of other communities, other organizations that all have similar missions that are really aligned and are collaborating, which is something that's so profound, so unique.
Well, and just to say, there's all the positive, and the thing that's important throughout that, though, is as you go organically, right? And we have this conversation on Network, and we have organizations and individuals, and we have missions, is how you communicate kind of what you are and what you're doing, so that the clarity is there, so that people don't join and a year later go, why did I join? Right? Or you later go, I'm still confused as to what this is. So what we're working really hard on, and this is where Network comes in, but other tools, is here's what we're doing to remind people kind of the why we're there, right? Because we're not just a LinkedIn group, right? Just join and then sort of let the group evolve. We've got really clear work and targets. And so that clarity, as you grow, being able to do that organic grow and keep the momentum and engagement, but also keep that clarity about what you're trying to do.
That makes so much sense, and because then people, they know why they're joining, and then they can see that it did happen, as opposed to why did I join? What am I getting out of this? Really, really important. Nicole, can you talk a little bit about the growth and how you grew, how your organization grew?
Sure, it's pretty similar to Gwen, our CEO. Julie Castro Abrams has a very large network. And it's been a lot of word of mouth and referrals. So we started about 8 or 9 years ago. And I tell people often it started with a luncheon, about 50 people. And it's been this model of a lot of referrals and word of mouth. We often say like, who are you going to tap on the shoulder next? It's often that's all you need is someone tapped you on the shoulder and invited you to join. Who will you now tap on the shoulder and invite them to join? And that's how we decided actually to go into this national model, because during the pandemic, we had quite a number of women in our network that either were moving out of the Bay Area and wanted to stay involved, or felt like it was finally a chance with more virtual options to invite others that weren't in the geographic area, to the point where we were about 6 or 7 months in and we started realizing like 25 to 30% of the chat were saying that they were coming from other states.
Yeah. And Nicole, also, that's so interesting. I mean, we've seen that firsthand. And I think everyone on the call can attest to that, the impact that COVID had, right? Previously, everything was an expectation to be in person. COVID put everything virtual. Now all of a sudden travel and these physical boundaries weren't so relevant or restricting. So it kind of opened it up from a virtual perspective. But at the same time, there really is really cool benefits to bringing people together through events, right? Especially in-person events. So Nicole, I know you guys just recently had a really exciting event for your community, for your participants. Can you tell us a little bit about that and kind of how events bring your members together, and does that foster growth?
Sure, yeah, we do a lot of events within the organization. And so we've done, previous to 2020, we did events probably about 20 to 30 times a year in person. And then we've done almost doubled that in the virtual setting. But now it allows for people in all different areas to come in and invite others. We also were able to take what was our largest in-person fundraiser and event previous to the pandemic and change that into a 5-day conference. So we were able to triple the size that we could offer in person, and also add a lot more content that brings in over 2,500 people from the US and Canada.
Wow, that's really impressive. Wow.
Yeah.
A 5-day, like all day conference each day?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, 5-day, all day conference. We have over 30 events, over 170 speakers, and it's all focused on getting more women into corporate board positions.
That's really incredible.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Christina, not only do you have your venture capital firm and your Vietnamese Leaders Forum group, but you are a very active participant of Nicole's organization.
I am. You're very much part of the Get On Board Week and with the 5-day, as one of the co-chairs of the 5-day conference.
Yes. And I have to imagine, I think you guys were saying, where did that take place? I think the Napa Valley, what I might have heard.
Yeah, that was our board meeting.
Oh, how fun is that?
Board retreat.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, we've been doing a number of retreats this summer in person to create intimate opportunities for senior women leaders to get together. So we've been hosting those in Napa Valley for the months of June and July, and then we'll be resuming those in the fall.
And I have to imagine, back to Joanne's original question, these opportunities to meet each other, to talk to each other, to foster relationship building is probably a wonderful ripple effect in regards to growth.
yeah. And I can add that, it is, you have to find the soul in the organization, the stickiness and that camaraderie, and that, being together in person is very, very important. And since I'm already talking, I can share about how our community grew. It started out only in Silicon Valley, and a bunch of top executives and entrepreneurs are Vietnamese. We got together socially, but it was just one of the trips that I drove cross country to help take care of my mother. She passed away of Alzheimer's, but I was driving across the country to help my dad take care of her. I stopped at the refugee camp where we first landed from as refugees from the fall of Saigon. I took a photo of me standing in front of Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, where we first landed on US soil, and sent it to all my Vietnamese friends, back in the Bay Area. And that's how we grew. It was my photo, and everybody started sharing their refugee stories. A lot of them all over the country, and then they kept adding their stories about their escape from Saigon. And that's how Vietnamese Leaders Forum just grew organically, because people started bringing others from all over the country into the group, and it grew very quickly too. And it's very selective, because we wanted to be the top leaders, top executives, serial entrepreneurs, top VCs in the Vietnamese community. And but the people are still the same. We have that common bond. And now we're finding a lot of Vietnamese Americans who went back to Vietnam and started companies and started venture capital firms. So now we're connecting across the Pacific Ocean with Vietnamese people who have gone back to Vietnam. And so now we're just being here. I'm sort of the center of, the cross-border between US and Vietnam.
Wow. That's really impressive. And to think that it all started with a photo.
Yeah, it started with a photo of me standing in front of the barracks where we stayed in Fort Chaffee, Arkansas.
Wow.
That's
Christina,
impressive.
can I just share very quickly? My mother and I used to teach Vietnamese refugees English.
Oh,
And
that just gave me chills. That's
and
beautiful.
yeah. And at one point we left, and I said, Mom, I think we're failing. We're just not doing a very good job. And she said, well, let's try harder next week. And we came back next week, and she looked at me and she goes, we're going to be fine. And I said, how do you know? And she goes, the children are fighting in English.
That's great.
And that's one of my memories of just,
Wow.
and one man asked me, he pulled me aside afterwards, after the session. He says, I have a very awkward question to ask you about my wife. And I said, okay. And he said, somebody said he bumped into my wife at the grocery store. Is that okay? It was, we have these phrases, and then he, next time he asked me, he says, I have a question. The parents next door said my children's eyes are glued to the TV. Why did that? There are all these things that, you just begin to think about, oh my gosh, bless these people. They've been so uprooted. And my uncle served in Vietnam many, many years ago. So I've got amazing pictures of that time. So thank you for everything you've been through.
Oh, no, thank you for, helping us get settled. We never forget those people that taught us how to talk, eat with a fork.
Joanne, can I ask a question that actually we get a lot here at Networked, if that's okay?
Absolutely.
So, and it's sort of a parallel to your question of how did you guys grow? A lot of organic, word of mouth, et cetera, events, bringing people together, driving engagement. But we often get a lot of the, we are meeting lots of people. Maybe that's a referral or a word of mouth introduction, or someone heard about us, visit our website, they're interested, right? And then how do they go from, let's say, interested and loosely associated to kind of crossing that line where there's a true formality to being a member or part of the organization? So I'd love to just ask the panelists a little bit, how does that transition work for you guys at your companies and your organizations? How do you guys go from sort of meeting people in a very, let's say, loose or casual setting to, okay, this is a formal participant of my community. Maybe that's a member, maybe that's a partner, maybe that's a sponsor. How did you guys go through that transition? I'd love to just kind of ask a little bit about that.
Go ahead, Christina.
Oh gosh, we went through this on our board retreat, and I'm with How Women Lead, Nicole. It is you need the soul. You
Mm.
have There is a soul of the organization that's going to keep people together. The Vietnamese Leaders Forum, our soul is, I mean, I've never met most of these people until we get together in person. We hold a luncheon in LA or Seattle with different groups. We become instant best friends, and we instantly want to help each other because there's something common we all went through, and that's the soul of us, is because we came from the same background. And I think with more broad, organization is that you have to have personal connection. You have to have people who get together one-on-one. People build relationships. That's the stickiness. You need that stickiness for people to stay engaged. So that's my opinion.
Well, Christina, I think you've said soul now a few times. That really resonates. And I also think what really resonates, what you said, was a shared interest or some common thread that bonds people. And I have found that community-based organizations, and Gwen, this is your earlier point, right? Clarity of mission. Why am I joining? Why am I here? How do I give back? Right? People are joining the community because of a shared interest or mission that unites them, right? So that common interest, and I really love kind of classifying that as the soul of the organization, Christina.
Can I say too, I was actually going to get a little operational for a second. So like when people join us as an organization, How Women Lead, I'm just using you because you're on the call, right? So first we say is to the mission soul, you agree to our 2025 and 2030 targets. Then we do two things. We do paperwork, right? So we're not a membership organization, but we do paperwork. So you sign up on something and you sign a commitment and you sign kind of the benefits you get in a commitment. And then what we do is we do quarterly calls. And we don't just have those calls. We actually spend a fair amount of time recruiting people to join the calls, right? So we set them up a year in advance, and we set up these calls, and we have agendas, and everyone gets a calendar invite. But we do a lot of outreach to get people on those calls to say, come join us, to come hear about the following. And then we try to also on those calls, and I'm being like in the weeds for a second, but we also really try to empower. So on these, we have an all partners call coming up Monday for all 73. Right. And so we break it down across the 9 areas. We have the co-chairs of the 9 areas, but we let them run their segments. Right. So it's not me speaking the whole time, or it's not our CEO speaking the whole time. Is we really kind of call people and say, can you take this 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the agenda and really do that? So that's also a way to kind of get people involved and engaged, which is like in our sphere of influence, this is volunteer time they're giving us. So I need to make sure that they're interested in being a part of the soul. And so there's a little just like counter way that we do that as well.
And I agree with what Gwen and Christina were saying. Christina was at our board retreat last week. As she said, soul kept coming up a lot in the conversations because we are a professional, our network of women it's a professional sense, but we've realized in looking at it that it really comes down to there are executive women that all want to give back and really have this tie to social responsibility and impact we have as leaders. And for us, to Spencer's question about like how they come in and how they get engaged, they're often invited by someone into our organization. Every month, we also, our CEO host an informational session that kind of gives an overview of all the different pieces of our work and where we're currently working on in those programs. And then for each event, we always start with our credo that we ask the women in our network not only to live by, but continue to treat others in our community that way. And our credo says that you need to be a fierce advocate for others. You have to say yes to helping each other. You need to reinforce her voice when she's not heard, and to be unabashedly visible.
Yes, I love those.
Like that. Really impressive.
I love that, Nicole. I just worked with the cardiology department at University of Rochester, helping the women get visibility. I'm like, you got to be visible. Years ago when I spoke, there was a guy who picked me up at the airport to speak at a medical device. And he says, what do these people do? What do these women do? A lot of women at this conference in Chicago. And I said, they're cardiologists. I've never met a woman cardiologist before. Is that because it's so hard? And I opened my talk the next morning with that. And I'm like, he doesn't know you exist because he's never met a woman cardiologist. So I need you visible.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
And when I think I heard both you and Nicole say something that there was commonality to what you said. You used different terminology. Gwen, I think you used pillars, right? 9 pillars. And Nicole, I believe you guys have more than 2 or 3 sub-communities within how women lead. And I think it's fair to say, from what I heard and what I know, is that you have certain people helping and leading those 9 pillars or those sub-communities, giving them responsibilities to divide and conquer, and to really also offer a sense of responsibility beyond, let's just say, the certain leadership within the organization. Do you think that's a fair statement, the role that a sub-community or coalitions within the main community have played a role within your organization?
Yes, very much. The women, we always tell the women of our community, they are responsible for the community. So many of the ideas and programs we have now are because of ideas they had at some point. I think Christina joked last week. She's like, I'm scared to say anything because it'll be created next week.
Yeah, exactly. Be careful what you talk about, right?
Yeah.
Right. I love that. So all of you and a few others on this session have picked Networked for your community platform. And I wondered why, what made you choose Networked? Maybe Gwen?
Maybe choose Networked. Spencer? Maybe Spencer. No, I mean, I think so. One, it was the idea.
That's a good reason.
There was the idea of it. It was the ability to kind of create it. I think, Spencer, you did a good job of what the value of it could be, but that we could really, to use the word white glove it, like we could really kind of build that out. And I think for us, and then Diane Darlings, who's on this call, was a member, is a advisory council champion, as we call them. Sorry, my dog is going to get in the picture in a second here. And so I think it was that ability to not only have it, but make it fit our needs. And it was the breadth of what we could turn on and turn off and have. So I think that's what it was. But it was the time that, Spencer, I think you really spent with us talking about it and really listening. We still haven't got the sub-community solved necessarily because of how we're set up. But I really think it, again, going back to some of our earlier conversations, that one-on-one.
Right, Gwen, really just creating a space, an online space, to replicate what you guys are doing in the real world, right, within the organization, bringing your people together in a private, safe, setting under that shared mission.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to jump to a non-panelist because Daya had mentioned that he wanted to answer the question. So Daya, who's
I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was for panelists.
No, it's for everyone.
Yeah, it's for everyone.
Hi, I'm Daya Otley. I'm from the Caribbean, and Joanne introduced me to Networked, and when Spencer presented it, it was amazing for me because I'm a voice communication coach. I help people who use their voice to communicate their message effectively, presentations, etc. And I wanted to build a community. I'm running programs like podcast training for people who want to start podcasts and voice communication coaching for individuals who have to learn presentations. And I thought, hey, what best to do than have a community where everybody could relate and support each other. And so I've joined Networked because it was just amazing. All the tools are really amazing. So just to answer your question, Joanne, of course I have questions, but if there's a question time, but that's the reason why I joined.
Yeah, and I will say I was Spencer and I did a one-on-one with Daya to show him the features, and he kept saying wow. And at one point we rendered him speechless, and that's a lot to say for someone who's a voice coach. So I'm so really glad you're part of the network community. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank
uh,
you.
Anyone else want to answer just why they chose network? Maybe Christina.
Oh, sure. So I've belonged to quite a few LinkedIn groups that just didn't work. I don't know. I couldn't figure out how to. People are not keeping up with what's going on in the LinkedIn groups. You can't really communicate with the entire group. It just didn't work for us. So then I really wanted to be in a private community so that people can post like, hey, I have a job. I'm looking to I have a position for my company, or somebody raising funds. They can post their pitch deck, and we can send we have a Google groups where it's just flooded with emails, and people sending emails to reply all to everybody. And I thought, okay, let's stop flooding everybody's inbox. Let's get into the community so that we can all communicate with each other, post jobs, post opportunities, post needs and wants, events, thought leadership. And then you can see everything that's going on and a record of everything that's going on. We didn't see that it worked for us on LinkedIn at all.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know, so I'm a community strategist and I help people choose the platform. And one of the things with a LinkedIn group or a Facebook group that we don't have in let's say networked is the distraction of all the other things going on, and also the fact that someone might be seeing a post right before they see your post, and it was something that got them enraged and outraged and really upset, and then the next thing they're reading Christina's amazing post in her group. Like, you don't have that. I know with my community, when people come, they come to read my stuff and see what's happening in the launch before community, and they're not distracted by all the other things. So I really agree with that, Christina. And I think Diane, you had your hand up. Did you want to talk about why you chose networked?
Sure. I mean, first of all, I think I first found out about it through Gwen when I joined WBC, and I just totally respect Gwen and her team as far as the due diligence they do. And then when I started being a user of Network, I started stalking Spencer. And for those of you who don't know, I am a writer and speaker about networking. My books are actually called The Networking Survival Guide, Networking for Career Success. I am all about networking. And my LinkedIn membership number is 16,000 and change. I've been on that platform for a long, long time when it was a village. And so people ask me all the time, where can I create a community? I'm not a protester of Facebook, but I'm with it. I don't like the distractions. And other ones that I had looked at, such as Slack, were just not necessarily that user friendly. Some of the other ones, Circle, whatever else they were expensive. And if you did one, and you also had to have multiple memberships, it just got so overwhelming. And this was just seamless, and I liked that. And then the one I have created is called Pet Working, because if you're not networking, if you have a pet, you're pet working, not networking. So that's an open one, and I need to spend some more time on that one. But that was one where somebody wrote an article about, not liking some Australian Shepherd breed. And I'm like, anybody have any feelings on why this breed is a bad one, or how to deal with, the person was trying to cook for their cat. And I mean, it just was, so part of it was just like having a place to go that is safe, that is uncluttered. We have so much clutter, mental clutter, digital clutter, physical clutter. It just was a place to go that was like that. So I've been, working with Spencer and the team for a while and opening doors, and I think it's just a really great platform. I think I've got 2 or 3 other communities, and I'm probably going to open up another one today. If they're full disclosure, but
Mhm.
yeah,
Great.
I think it's
Well,
great.
Yeah, that's great,
Thank you so much for telling us all those good stories. We love to hear the positive feedback, and I think what you said was that really resonated with me personally. It's just easy, right? Easy, distraction-free, and robust. So when we were originally at the drawing board, our whole goal was to say, hey, how do we make something that used to be expensive and hard to get right super easy without making it so simple that it doesn't fit your needs in a robust way? And that is hopefully what comes to light with our products. So happy to hear all the good words and the feedback here today. So thank you so much.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. So I have one more question for the panelists, and then I'm going to open it up if anyone has questions. What is your favorite feature about Networked? Christina?
I love being able to, post, just post photos after our events. And then people can comment. So I just thought, or post articles, it's just, it is such a well-contained place and it also is a good journal for us, like of all of our photos, so that we, it's like our own personal journal. It's not just
like it's your all-in-one place that brings your community together.
Yeah.
And Christina, you actually are, in a really unique situation, because Networked is still pretty young as a company, right? And all the people belong to at least one community. Some belong to 2 or 3. And Christina, you're one of those people, right? And this is something that's super unique to Network, in the fact that I can be part of multiple unrelated communities, all with their own missions, their own branding, their own identities, but yet I'm not going to all these different places to access them.
Yeah,
it's just
I
a
love
single
that.
application.
Yeah, one single sign-on.
Yes, that's right.
I love that too. And something I realized, I was posting about this event, and I wanted to post it in 2 different communities, and I realized I could do that because I'm the admin within both of those communities. I could just do one post and say send it to both, and that really impressed me. So it's definitely a time saver.
Well, Joanne, I'm so happy you said that. In fact, I'd like to bring this to the attention of the panelists. This is something that we're launching later this month. It's one of our most anticipated updates. It's everything that you can do for your community in that private sense, you'll be able to do in a collaborative sense with other communities. So to Joanne's point, you might be hosting an event and you might want to collaborate and invite the people of Women Business Collaborative to attend and go to that event, as opposed to just your community. Or you might be, Women Business Collaborative and want to organize an event and then collaborate and invite the people in Vietnamese Leaders Forums community. So that's a really cool update coming. But of course, you can always do things within your community as well.
Great. Nicole, did you want to answer what your favorite feature is?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's the directories and the sub-communities. Because for us, with such a large network, I felt like a question that we were asked a lot is like, oh, do you have a directory? I could see like who might be in the same industry as me, or who might be same geography as me. So now I have a place to say like, yeah, check out the directory, and you could search by what it is you're looking for. And then the sub-communities we have quite a few different programs under our umbrella of How Women Lead. So it lets us create these spaces for sub-communities. Like I know in particular, our Women Leaders for the World Fellowship, they were really excited for it because they're so geographically spaced out. Because we have about 400 alumni in 40 different countries, and they were looking for ways to communicate and collaborate. But how could they take us as kind of the middleman out when they were looking for introductions, or like who else is in my country or who else is working on climate change, so that they could just be able to go, okay, I know where to find them. And I can start a group message or reach out to someone, because we both are alumni of this fellowship, without having to wait for an introduction and all that. So I think those are the favorites, and it's just very customizable. So it really has the look and feel as far as like branding and colors, so which you couldn't get on other platforms, so that it feels like you're still part of the How Women Lead community. And we've built a landing page within our website, so that it doesn't ever feel like our network has to leave our website to go to another site.
Yeah, yeah, and I've seen that also, where you're in your website and it's just a tab, and then it's like there's How Women Lead community, and you're there. Like
Yeah.
you don't feel like you've
Wow.
jumped over to some other platform. So I love how you have it integrated. That's great. So we just have a few minutes left. I wanted to see if there are any questions. You could either come off mute or put it in the chat, whatever works for you.
I
Gaia?
can, yes.
Yeah.
So just for the panelists as well, one of the things, I mean, the feedback so far is awesome, that the issues that everyone connects because of a common goal. But what are some of the things that you can see or somebody can share that you have to keep doing to keep the community alive? Because everyone is still human, a human being, and even though you have a common goal, you do still have to feed the community. It would be good to hear like some strategy or what is employed to ensure that there's sustainability and connectivity with the entire group. That would be good. And of course, on Networked, what tools you use to keep that going? Because there's so many tools. So I'd love to know.
Joanne, would you like me to take the first response potentially there, and then see what the panelists might want to add to that?
Yeah, sure.
So, Dio, I think one of the big things that at least we talk to a lot in our client success team is content, right? Content is king. So when you guys share and promote an upcoming event, right? Nicole is a great example of how events bring people together, right? So anytime you're posting and driving engagement through content, whether that's a photo, from an event highlight reel, potentially a video, launching surveys. So that's sort of my 2 cents, content.
Yeah. Christina, you want to answer that? Or?
So I just for our community, it's not. I think it's when we get together, it's not all about business. Like this Sunday, I'm really looking. Danny Tran, the co-owner of Sunfish Sauce, is having a bunch of us over his house, and he invited a bunch of chefs, and it's I think that it's not all about business and networking. When we get together, there's music, there's food. Some of the entrepreneurs are actual singers. They do sing jazz, they play music, and it's that the personal connection is what really keeps us together. So in addition to helping each other, introducing each other to investors or partners or deals, you do a lot of deals together, but you also have a lot of fun together.
Yeah, love that.
And
I want to be invited to that party.
I could chime in. I agree with Spencer about content, so regularly updating content. I think also what I started doing was offering a couple office hours. So a time when people could come in and ask questions, and then just kind of reinforcing things, like when someone says like, I have this job opportunity I want to share. What do I do with it? And then reinforce, like, put it on Networked. There's a whole tab for that. Oh, I'm looking for this. Did you look at Networked? And so the reinforcing behavior when things come up of like driving people to it. And I think what I mentioned earlier about the integration into our website makes it easier, so that it feels like it's not yet another platform that they have to open up on their devices. And I know we've also pushed for in our community a lot the app. Having the app your phone makes it super easy and simple. So when you're on the go or you're in a new place, you can potentially just look and see like who may you be connecting with once you land in a new city.
Yeah, I like that. And what you were saying about the Q&A, I have a similar thing in my community where I have it every 2 weeks. I'm always there. Sometimes one person comes and we have like a one-on-one. Sometimes 9 people come. So it's just that I'm there and they know I'm there and they know if they have a question, they can come. And it doesn't matter how many come, but it's always a positive thing, whether it's 1 or 9. So. Any other questions before we wrap up? Okay.
Joanne, I'll ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because you are our host today, and thank you so much for bringing us all together. It's a real honor and a pleasure to listen and hear all these great stories and these perspectives and these insights. But you're also a real expert, right? A true expert in the community space, and you haven't always been in the community space. You've had a very, illustrious and successful career, and really since what I think 2019 is when you really said, "Listen, I see this community space that's new, that's nascent, and growing like crazy, almost like wildfire." I'd love for you to kind of give us your, as maybe as a parting thought, your perspective on the community space at large, sort of its infancy versus kind of where you see it heading in the coming quarters and even years potentially.
Yeah, thank you. And anything could be a community, right? I know people who have a community all around, reading a certain book and they love this author and they have a community and they meet every 3 months to talk about that book. And I know of a community that's literally it's only people who run slow. Like that is, they call the back of the pack runners. They're not the elite athletes. They're the people who are running in the back, and they've created a thriving community with thousands of members, and the only thing they have in common is that they run slow. So I feel like there's so much potential, and people are getting on the wagon because they are, big companies are doing it, small individual solopreneurs are doing it. It's definitely the way of the future, and I do really feel that Networked is helping that and in your mission of being the network of communities.
Yeah. And really that is something that we see a lot as well. If I were to kind of characterize what we're seeing through our lens into sort of 2 extremes, of course there's a lot of in between, but typically you have established organizations that are looking to modernize. They're looking to add a digital component, especially in response to COVID and the virtualization that brought. And on the other end, you have communities that are brand new, that are literally just starting out. They're looking at what is their mission, what are their core values, how am I going to get my first and second and third members of the community. And really our advice always is pretty consistent. It's, get started. Because once you get started, the technology is going to kind of walk you through what you need to do, and you're going to evolve and you're going to sense and redirect over time. And that's one of the biggest things that we've seen here at Networked, which really I think is a representation of how new the community space is. You've got very established institutions, in some cases, 50 or more years. And then you have communities that, aren't even necessarily a legal entity. They're just starting out and starting to form.
Yeah, and that's true. And that's all, about kind of what my company is, helping people to launch before, everything feels perfect, because people wait and they're, oh, I'm just waiting until it gets, out there and it's perfect. It's like, no, just put it out now and have a founding member launch and be okay being not perfect. So I'm really glad there's a platform like Network to enable that. So I just wanted to thank our panelists for coming, and all of you for asking questions and being here and supporting us in this session. So this is the first one we're doing. We hope to have more, and thank you so much for coming.
Yeah. Thank you. This was fun.
Oh, good.
Thanks, Joanne. Thanks, Spencer.
Bye. Thank
Thanks for
you.
sharing, everyone. It was great.
Thank you
Thank
so
you. It was
much.
great fun. Look forward to seeing you guys again.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Right. Bye, guys.